Happy Friday, everybody. It's David here. I'm the director from Orient Telecom Hong Kong, and this is the podcast channel organized by Orient Telecom Hong Kong. So here we have our true legend, for me personally, Dennis from Global Circular Tech Germany. Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm great. Happy Friday. I'm happy to be in the episode with you, but please stop calling me legend, for sure. Well, I told you a few times, but no, I know you're just joking. I'm really happy to be here to have this episode with you today.
Thank you for your time, Dennis. And first of all, actually, I met you once in Amsterdam. And luckily, we were able to have a little bit sharing in the after party. And now we have the chance and have the appointment for this podcast section. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because for me, I got a lot of things to learn from you. You got years of experience in this industry, especially for the European market. So Dennis, I think probably a lot of people know you already, but would you mind to introduce a little bit about yourself, your background? Thank you.
Thank you so much. No problem. So I would like to start to say that, around 15 years I'm in this industry at the moment. It's better to understand which generation iPhone was happening there. So it starts with iPhone 3GS when I first had the privilege to work on supply chains for circular economy for electronics. So I started in electronic insurance as an employee. First, I worked for 8 years as a director for supply chain logistics in Germany. We had far the largest operations for servicing electronic insurance schemes like Deutsche Telekom, O2 or 1&1 in Germany. We were one of the largest in Europe. So working together with all the insurance companies, with the telcos, was great experience, great honor to me. I learned a lot. And since 2018, I started to find my own companies in the industry. I found a consultancy. So I did a lot of, let's say different approaches, different projects, consultancy, yes, no. I had a service provider as an own company with 35 employees in Germany until 2023. And all the experience, all the projects and different companies I raised and sometimes even exited, I put together the experience under the umbrella Global Circular Tech. And these days, my main intention is to develop buyback trade-in schemes, individuals, companies, or even government institutions to bring more assets from shelves to the market. But we will talk about it a little bit later probably, but this is the kind of the background.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Dennis. And that's why I said you are my legend because you have been here for 15 years. For me, I'm just probably around 10 years. And I'm very interested in knowing little bit more about the largest scheme you just mentioned just now, because I heard that let's say 10, 15 years ago, the Hong Kong companies were buying a lot from the Europe directly from the mobile operator. I would like to know, is it because your scheme was being launched and that's why the mobile operator also changing their model, selling direct to Hong Kong, but just selling to the local European company?
I have to tell maybe at this level one story, because how insurance started on iPhones. I think until iPhone 3GS, the story was kind of easy. So I think how electronic insurance is working is you have any insurance is based on, what is the claim cost? What is the fulfillment cost and cost anticipated? So you have a basic calculation of costs and a premium you have to charge so that everybody is earning money, even the service provider can be paid and so on. So, but what happened and what changed with the iPhone 4 is the glass back cover. And the problem was the claim rates were so massively increasing that any calculation everywhere in the world was like destroyed. So with the infrastructure for after sales of Apple those times, what was not really existing with official Apple stores 10, 12 years ago, no chance. So you had to drive hundreds of kilometers or minimum 100, 150 kilometers to have an authorized repair on your iPhone 4. What was crazy expensive. It's still expensive. But for the insurance projects, there was no any choice to go for alternative methods. And therefore, this was the booming moment of reaching to Asia, because all the third-party spare parts were produced in Asia, for sure. So they had already the plans. They know Foxconn was there. They were anyway produced for Apple in Asia. And this was the time, how, from my opinion, from my perspective, how the connection between Europe and Asia was not to erase anymore. So we purchased parts from China, Hong Kong, because we had to repair unauthorized third-party parts, third-party repairs for the electronic insurance companies. This was the first happening where everybody realized, okay, we have to have alternative processes. And part of the alternative process and to bring value back to the schemes was for sure to sell off salvage devices. So devices beyond economical repair. So when a repair was not reasonable anymore, even with parts from third-party, devices were stocked. At a certain stage, professional insurance companies come to the conclusion it were not the operators actually, it were the insurance companies because of the pressure of commercial. They said that, okay, this is not scrap. Let's find channels for selling of the defective products. And I think this was the time when the systems, the processes were under pressure commercially. People tried to find better ways to deal with the products, even with the broken ones. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Now I see why a lot of Hong Kong companies were saying that, hey, David, in the past 10 years, 15 years ago, those European mobile operators, they had no way to go. So actually, they invite us to visit their office in Europe and ask us whether we can take all the pilots back to Hong Kong because they have no use of those used devices. But as you said, the scheme helps those mobile operators and also maybe the insurance company get into the circularity. So it means that the scheme is helping them not export to Hong Kong, but maintain the circularity locally in the Europe. So am I right for the understanding?
100%. So you already said one thing correct.
That's it. Yeah.
What is now circularity? What is now sustainable? What is now this whole sustainability effect of refurbished devices and so on? It started with cost pressure on manufacturer side and insurance side, from my perspective, because we had the honor to work really with the most with the biggest insurance companies in the world, and they're having huge tools even 10 years and more before to analyze KPIs, SLAs, and so on. So they put the pressure very, very high. Imagine you have a German telco and an American insurance company that is forcing you day by day with reports to do the best of job that you can do. And we had to take around 20,000 claims per month, navigate them to different service centers in Europe. And at that time, you had still a Sony, you had still a HTC with significant volume in the portfolios. So today, if you speak about significant schemes where you have to organize after sales for, you have mostly Apple and Samsung, and even not the A or J series will be repaired from Samsung. But those times you have the Sony Xperia, you have the HTCs to repair, Romania, Poland, so all different countries, 20,000 claims per month with SLAs, KPIs, and so on. The point I want to make is the efficiency born in these insurance schemes was the basis for having efficient processes today to bring refurbished phones to the market. So, and this is something for later on only, but we talked about my book last time. This is what I wanted to state is that only because of we want to be so green and sustainable, this whole industry would fail without having efficiency and cost efficiency and professionality behind it, right? So this was kind of, from my perspective, the basis for everything we have at the moment.
Got you, Dennis. So Dennis, would you mind to tell me what is your role for this scheme at that time?
I think it cannot be only the one scheme. So actually we had just 3 of the 4 big operator companies in Germany at the same time as a customer. And as I said, with 20,000 insurance claims only on mobile per month. So this was around 250,000 of claims per year, 250,000. This was kind of significant, the largest ones in Germany at that time. But still, Germany was a little bit behind of UK. UK, I think, was the first really developed country with all of these mobile insurance schemes and so on. I think the UK was kind of number one. Germany, France coming behind, and even Spain because of Telefonica. So I think it was not really one scheme, and I think it was not really 1 year. I think it was at just a time of 2-3 years around the iPhone 4 launch, when the smartphones becoming more massive product, becoming more expensive, but at the same time more fragile for being broken. So in that case, all the mix out of it make the people realize that, okay, we need crazy efficient supply chain. And because of everything starts in Asia and everything goes to Asia more or less. This was minimum 10 years ago the case. So
That's
today
right.
we have still some kind of Dubai in between, or even as a destination, as a final destination for some products. But those times it was clear everything starts in China or Asia and everything goes back to Asia. So insurance companies then started to analyze, okay, do we really need 2-3 middlemen in Europe? Or can we just reach directly to Asia to save money and to have more value on us? So coming back to your topic, so I think it was not just my or one scheme. It was a movement more or less around this time frame where insurance companies and there were even, I think, probably more, but I have the insurance perspective from that time, but there were even the media markets, even the chains. I think the whole consumer electronics industry realized, if we have this product, smartphone, scaling up in usage that much with that price, we need more efficient after sales and supply chain. And this was the basis that we can offer so many refurbished devices today to end consumers as well.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit history with me, Dennis. Now I have more knowledge about how the whole industry has been developed since 15, 20 years ago until right now. So, Dennis, as you have been into this industry for years, so nowadays, actually, for me, I have been serving the European market over the last 10 years. So more and more customers are telling me that, hey, David, this industry nowadays is not what we should work for, because everybody is struggling and fighting for the single digit of margins. So what are the biggest changes you are seeing from probably 10 years ago until right now? Is it just only the changes on the profit, or actually there might be some other changes on other aspects?
I think the main drivers is transparency and competition. So I think one traditional classic way of earning money is information arbitrage. So if you have information that a lot of parts of the market don't have, like a good source for devices, a good sales channel for devices, bridging, I think even the import-export out of European Union is still a business model for some people. Okay, I saw it like I saw some guys, and I know some guys that only earn money because of they importing thousands, 10,000s of products, displays, and so on to Europe, and then sharing to all the wholesalers in European Union. So there are different business models along the value chain of our industry. And I think what is on all these positions changed is more transparency, more competition. So companies grow up, employees leaving this company, finding their own business. So you have out of one, you have 3-4 companies on the same position, but the one goes out, finding his own business, different cost structure, innovation cycle. So if imagine somebody today or even 2 years ago went out of a company, 5, 6, 7 years knowledge, AI in the background, he can be very fast with the same value proposition in the market. We see it all over the time. Different cost structures, so very low cost structure can compete a big 150 employee company on the same playground. It's a problem for sure, and this is the one thing I think is the one of the most important stuff. So transparency, competition, and lack of innovation, adaptation of existing big companies that were already in the market 10, 15, 20 years ago. That still have to struggle with their grown up infrastructure of IT, with processes of don't get me wrong, but human beings internalized. So if you have 50, 70, 80 people internally doing repetitive work, this is a problem. there is, different things, but these two, I think, is the most problematic situation now.
I totally agree with you, Dennis. And I would also say that it's mainly because of the transparency, because not only more and more new companies, more and more new participants into this industry, we are also seeing that actually from the upstream, the supply are trying to jump over the middleman, directly connect to the end users, to the buyers, and the buyers also try to jump over the middleman to connect with the auction housings. So that squeeze up the middle space. So that's why I would say transparency is the main pawn for the current situation. But I believe that then is tough things never last, but tough people do, and that's why we have to read your book, because I heard that recently you launched a new book. It's called Circularity Unleashed. So tell us a little bit about this book, because I'm very interested into knowing it more, because I already bought it from Amazon USA and it took me probably 2-3 weeks arriving in Hong Kong.
First question I have, thank you very much for mentioning it, but was it not able to buy it in Hong Kong? So is there no Amazon available to buy this book in Hong Kong?
There is Amazon in Hong Kong, but no, I could not find your book. So that's why I see it in Amazon USA. That's the reason. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I try to fix it. I don't know how whether this is possible or not, but thanks for mentioning it. I'm really happy if you can have it and supporting the movement. What we have, I think it's the story is just it started with a joke or with several jokes of people that when I went to the typical events the last years, it turned out that people started to ask questions to me or ask me opinions, or how do you see this, how do you see that? And as you know me now, and many people know me, I usually try to do my best to be just authentic and say what I think, instead of just what I think it's the best thing to say. So I just tell you how I see things, and this is what people valued. And here and there, people said that, okay, just write a book out of these things. And then I started to think about it, and just started as a project, because as you know, running company, we had it in the pre-conversation, is a tough thing, but sometimes we need some challenges next to the typical operational stuff in the day by day. I started catching ideas, writing together 1.5 years. I putting ideas together. I put things together, and for sure, this is not a secret. I think it is marked on Amazon as well. For sure, I used AI to help me writing out some of the phrases. I think this is, kind of clear these days. Who is not a professional author but want to release knowledge and content? Everybody is like minimum using tools to help for structuring or rephrasing some of the ideas. But therefore, it was possible for me to do it. I put in there, I think the cover is already showing that it's not a typical sustainability book, because I chose specifically the red cover instead of green or something, because like everybody's doing green. I thought that, okay, I do red. And it's not a how-to book. So it is on purpose not a book to say how to be successful in circular economy, blah, blah, blah. So it's not a how to be successful book. So it's just from my perspective, not my story or not my way, but just how I think basic fundamental things in reality are connected with each other, and what is necessary to understand to be successful there, but not as a detail or something, but as a basic principle to understand. Because David, you are meanwhile fundamental part of this industry as well. Everybody knows you as well, even for your very nice, attractive suits you always wear when you are on events.
Thank you.
But you know the events meanwhile, and this is part of the game. I don't want to judge it, but if you go to an event these days, today, you're going 80% minimum marketing event. So no matter how educational you want to design it, you need the people who raise this event need to earn money, right? So they have sponsors, they have keynote speakers that are can present themselves and their things. So there is always a frame. And if you follow the frame as somebody that don't know the unleashed information, if you don't know the basic what is behind. So if you see somebody on the stage speaking about how everything is nicely working, but in reality this company is almost bankrupt or having deep problems. So people try to think that, okay, like this guy is saying now this is working, but in reality it's not really working. So it's not about blaming, but it's really an approach beside all the buzzwords, beside like marketing framed content, just basic truth, how I think things go together. Yeah.
Got you, Dennis. For me, I would say that that's a great asset, not just a book, Dennis. Because as you could see that, and actually everybody are seeing that this industry is changing rapidly. It becomes, as you said, more transparent, but at the same time more professional. So it's not only just about simple trading, buy and sell. As you also mentioned that this buyback scheme or from different market has been developed over the last 10 to 15 years. So while this industry are getting above the water and everything becomes more transparent and professional, we do need such information from reading your book. And those information, as you might think, is not secret, but for me, I would say that it's a great asset, great information, because by reading your book, I can easily access a lot of information that I could not get elsewhere from the event, from the customer. But from your book, I understand fully about how the full picture of the European market. So Dennis, if I ask you one question, like, tell me the biggest selling point of your book.
The biggest selling point of the book, this is the what I answered 2 weeks ago to Retech Days to two guys that asked me. So I'm maybe it's sounding counterintuitive, but I'm not a passionate sales guy. I don't have sales in myself. I like to develop things, yes, and I don't have a problem to speak and so on, but I'm not sales driven. This is not my identity. So I decided to make this project, not a sales project. So the sales argument actually is you have unfiltered access to opinions of myself about the industry, and you support the charity movement, because all income of the book sales go to charity organizations, which we define month by month together with the community. So, for example, we have now the first was my wife was able to decide the first organization because she was supporting me so much the last years, as always. So I said that, okay, first income of a month, April and May, it was half April and May, few €100 goes to an organization, a dog saving organization in Romania, because we adopted our dog from there. So we spend the money to this organization. For June now, it will be a different one. So actually, it is a charity project. We want to do good things with the money of this of the income, and at the same time, I hope that people who read the book have minimum on a few pages. Maybe it's just one line, maybe a few lines, some impulse, some good input for which they can use to just create better results for themselves. And I think the key message, if I would have to put it into one sentence, is that like sustainability approach without commercial logic and commercial efficiency is just not working and can never scale. And this is what I saw the last 10 years a lot, like saving CO2 here, saving nature here. Even people fighted the approach to bring devices from Europe to, I don't know, to Africa or to South America. Even if they would recycle products in Europe, they would challenge to bring them to Ghana or to other African states, because they say, then we have to put them into a plane and they fly away from Europe. But extending life cycle is always the best option, right? So if we can give a product better life, a new life, it's always better than recycling it just and have the raw materials. So these approaches, so sustainability without commercial efficiency can never scale. This is kind of the core message of what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Got you, Dennis. And I would say that this book is like a great contribution to this industry, because I would say that at least you are the first one I know who wrote the book for this industry. I mean, personally saying that. So, what you know, Dennis, I would say that you are not only a legend, also a innovator nowadays, because I would say it's not easy to achieve that level, you know.
I have to say credit at this stage to Rich Bulger.
Yeah.
He wrote a book as well, and he inspired me as well. So if you,
Oh,
however, see or listen to this podcast, Rich, credits go out to you. He's
for sure.
definitely the
Yeah.
one, the first one I saw who raised the book. I couldn't have it so far. I have to
Mm.
ask him again, maybe where to buy it, but I was technically not the first one, but I think we didn't have too many so far. Yeah.
Got you, got you. I please do send me the link. I gotta watch it for the podcast because I would say that every podcast bring us a lot of good information and knowledge. So, by the way, Dennis, I know that you are very good aspect of buyback scheme, and the book also saying a little bit about the buyback scheme. For me, I'm locally from Hong Kong. The buyback scheme in Europe, in UK, I don't know too much about that, but I just have a brief idea about the buyback scheme in Europe. So this is why I would love to learn deeper about understanding about the knowledge of how the buyback scheme running in Europe.
Yeah, I don't know actually whether they are too different from buyback schemes in different other continents or so on. But I just can say that I think everything kind of what I did the last 8-9 years was buyback or trade-in related because my goal was always to go with the highest demand, and the highest demand for consumers in Europe is European spec devices, right? So it's because of law and European Union movement and so on. So the focus is just clear at the moment, and in the past it was clear. Usually we should take European spec from the market and give it back to the market. So it was crystal clear for me to go for that. Yeah, I think it's pretty much lean going forward. Digital procedure, automated shipping label, customer sends in. There's a validation of the product when it is received. Customers paid out, stock is in, and then you sell it out. So I think it's maybe you have more concrete questions, but I think the basic principle of how to run, so the basic modules, let's say, it's pretty much like lean. So digital infrastructure, process flow, you need a warehouse to process the devices, payment flow to the customer, selling out the stock. In theory, it's not that hard. It's just the details of the dynamics of the market. I think maybe if you want to know how it works to make it successful, this is a different question.
Got you, Dennis. And that's why I said you have to read the book and you know how the buyback scheme running in the European market. So actually, based on what I know, is that the buyback scheme is just a simple theory. But as you said, if you want to run a successful buyback scheme, it's very challenging. So that's why I would love to know a little bit more about how to run the buyback scheme successful in Europe market.
Yeah, it's for. I think if I would have a blueprint for that, then I would be already a very very rich man. But
Okay.
I think there are what we discussed. There are different individual situations of existing ones, but we can maybe let's start with the green grass. So you want to start now. You want to just start it now. So if you want to have the audience, you need partnerships where the audience is already. So, for example, if you go for an auction of an operator, a tender, you win it, you have the audience, right? So you go for, let's say just an example. Deutsche Telekom runs a tender. Who wants to serve us with buyback solution for our shops and online? There is a tender. You can attend there. If you are strong enough, then you automatically have the auction, the audience. You will have the products. So you can go with partnerships. You can search them. You can see, okay, who is doing buyback at the moment and who not, who could do. So you could go to somebody like an insurance company or like a distributor who sells but not buyback. and offer them buyback solution, digital infrastructure, and the whole journey. I think what is necessary to make it absolutely successful is you need to have very good data about the pricing. You need to have a basic understanding of service provider network, because if you want to do it with your own guys, with your own stuff, in Europe, it's very hard to make it profitable to process devices if you're having like own employees. So I would say if you start now, digital infrastructure to offer is, compared to 10 years ago, almost zero. So you have almost no infrastructure cost for digital. You just have to spend the knowledge to have a good pricing, to have a good customer journey. I would externalize the grading. I think maybe shout out here at this level, at this point, to our friends from Cyclus, Fergal Donovan, probably you know him very well. The project of external service provider with an Akudo machine. I think something like this is perfect in the future. So you run in digital infrastructure. When customers sending devices in, goes directly to your service provider. It's automatically processed. You just manage the process. You don't necessarily need to manage sickness of employees. You don't necessarily need to manage IT guys that have to maintain a 10 years old IT infrastructure. So today it's comparatively very, very easy to start it, and if you have a low cost base, it's even not a big problem to earn money with that.
Yes, Dennis, that's why I would love to ask you the question. When you mentioned that in theory, buyback is easy, but as you just explained in details and a little bit more details, like you have to have a good data analysis on pricing, warehousing, infrastructures, marketing. So every little piece combined together, it makes everything very challenging. So all in all, what I can say is that, as you mentioned, one key term, partnership. So you have to look for a very good partner for each piece so that you can run the whole buyback scheme very smoothly, right? So partnership is the key point. For me, I think, to have a successful buyback scheme. And that's why Orient Telecom now doesn't have a buyback scheme in Europe. And I would say that, yeah, Dennis, you are very, very professional about this aspect. And I would say that you can be the consultant of the buyback scheme for the European market. And by the way, Dennis, I would like to ask you one more question about the buyback. Because buyback is the starting point for the whole circularity. But for the whole circularity, there's buyback, there's trading, there is different position for the whole circularity. So what is the biggest difference between circularity and trading? Because trading, for me, I'm doing trading daily because buy and sell. But when it comes to circularity, it's a much bigger picture. So what is the biggest difference? What are the differences?
I think it's not a difference. I think what trading is just one part of the circle. So, for example, is how I like to describe it. If you buying from an auction in USA, for example, so what has happened to those devices before? They originally were sold as a brand new product, probably in USA. In USA, there can be different reasons why they are then at a certain point where you can buy them by auction. They can be part of a device as a service cycle. I think there are countries in the world that are very much more developed than European countries about it, because as more device as a service we have, as more automatic the device is coming back, right? We don't need active, systematic take-back programs if we have devices already in device as a service. When the device is originally sold as brand new, then technically the circle starts, because then the device is in usage, and it's kind of like how I would say, it's a reserve, right? It's a reserve. It's the reserve for the cycle we are in. So it's waiting here, and somebody is taking this device and bring it to the circle. So it's like a buyback scheme, like a trade-in, or like a device as a service contract, and so on. And as soon as this device is coming out of this company, out of the individual person, out of government usage, coming back to this auction platform, as you just say, it starts again coming to the market. And what you are doing is you trade a good that is part already in the market and trade it to somewhere else where it is still part in the market. So you are in the middle of something, and probably after you, there is, I would guess, there is maybe a wholesaler buying from you. Maybe he's selling to a smaller seller, and the smaller seller then is the last mile seller and sell it to the end consumer again. Maybe even the guy that buys from you sell directly on back market, and then he is the last. So, but if it's originally sold first time until it is back to the next usage, that is the circle, right? So in the middle can be a repair, can be whatever, can be a new just a screen polishing or whatever, it can be after sales, can be something. And after the next sales to an end consumer, it's still as a reserve waiting. Oh, okay, can I have maybe a new life cycle? And then maybe in 2 years later, he said, oh, I don't need this phone anymore. I trade it back into the circle. And then somebody like you, like a trader, is again maybe picking this. So, and there are different roles. And the good thing is why we are have a good synergy at the moment, because I can learn from you, because I'm not so very well in this trading in the market. I'm focusing on bringing the reserve to the market. I'm focusing not on the part in the middle. I'm focusing on, okay, how can we bring more trust? How can we bring more customer satisfaction, customer journey? How can we have more visibility and transparency to companies and individual persons that they bring the reserve back to the market? And from my perspective, here is the highest money to earn. So here's the biggest money to earn, because for me, for that, what I know from the industry, because something is laying on stock somewhere is a professional asset, and professional assets is under the transparency of the global market. So everybody knows the price of it. So how can you earn 20% margin on a device that you buy from an auction? 20%. I would assume it's not possible.
Not possible.
Yeah. So if you go to a company, if you're going to an individual person and you're doing the right marketing approach, not best price. This is what most people do wrong. So for example, somebody's going to these price comparison platforms. For me, I know they do business there. I know they have formulas. But if you win a customer on a comparison platform where only the price is a mandatory argument, how do you want to earn money with that? How can you earn money with that if you have the hottest price in the market? So this is where I would never go. This is where I never went, never. I just go for brand culture, for smart marketing, for smart ad strategy, for partnerships, to persuade people taking my solution and trusting my brand, instead of like going to the sharks that maybe, and this is not a secret, we have a lot of companies in Europe that artificially downgrade the value of the device after they have it. So they go to comparison platform, I pay you €1,000, device is coming in, they write an email to the customer, sorry, it's not in the condition as you say, 750. So they manipulate kind of the market, right? So, and this is what we do different. Yeah, and this is, I would not say, but coming back to your question, sorry for the wider explanation, but there is not really a difference from my perspective. I think you doing very important part in the middle, you moving goods, and you are trustful as well. Everybody knows the brand Orient Telecom at the moment. So it's just another part of the chain.
Thank you, Dennis, for helping me out to answer this question. So how we could meet the compliance and trust in the big pie? Let's just say about European market.
I have special opinions about these things, about compliance and rules and so on. But I try to stay as diplomatic as I can. I think there are two very big problems at the moment for European companies. Yeah. The one thing is marginal VAT fraud. I think this is not a price and not a new one. What people listening maybe now and saying, yeah, okay, the good old story, marginal VAT fraud. But the question is always that, what is the consequence out of it? What is the consequence that I don't want to speak about numbers. Everybody can have percentage-wise in his own fantasy. He can think about how many products on platforms like Backmarket, Refurbed, Kaufland, whatever platforms we have in Europe, how many of them with marginal VAT are not real marginal VAT. Everybody can put his fantasy about these numbers. But what is the consequence? What is the consequence if any player can use the 19% in Germany? It's a 19% advantage. What you have can use a 19% advantage on a product which you can buy everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter in which quality, and just sell it on the same price level and with the same benefit as, like, for example, as good as new, that having their processes, they're having ad spend, they actively have to go to the market and persuade customers to bring them real marginal VAT products, right? So they're having a machinery behind it. So they're having a position which they want to use to have this 19% advantage. And in the past, it was a real advantage. But nowadays, everybody can just buy in Hong Kong, buy everywhere, put just marginal VAT on it, has the advantage, can compete again. Everybody who does the real effort to have those devices. And if 2, 3, 4 years later there is a problem, they just shut down the company and go for another one. So this is what in reality is happening. So this is a big problem. As long as we don't solve this one, it is very hard, if you want to follow all the rules, to really earn money in this industry with just basic buying from Orient Telecom to sell on back market. It's very challenging without doing these things. The other topic is that, and we come to compliance or rules or laws. So I heard that there was a change in the policies, but if you're going for any kind of bigger platform in Europe, there was, until a certain time minimum, in the conditions how to sell on their platforms, is you have to sell products with CE mark, with physical CE logo on the product. But even here, you can have your imagination how many of the products that are sold on these platforms don't have a CE mark. So there is a lot of products that are not sold in Europe according to the existing law. And if only those two together, if you take those and you have so many actors in the market that don't follow the rules, how important then is it, and how realistic is it then to follow full compliance and still can compete them in the open market? There are other players without a name, but if you are in insurance companies, if you are regulated as an insurance company, you cannot risk things. You have to follow the rules. So, but you would not survive in the open market. You can only then survive if you have these relationships, what we just discussed. If you go to an operator and you win a tender, you just have your field. Nobody can challenge you. You just have the audience. You can have the products. But if you are regulated, highly regulated, and you have highly compliance to follow, you cannot compete the open market. It's almost impossible.
Dennis, let's get in deeper a little bit. So right now, I know exactly how things going and how people abuse the marginal VAT. At the same time, there are a lot of parties, Dennis, like the marketplaces. They allow people to sell and one party, and there are some other parties. So, I mean, if it is the reality for the marginal VAT right now, so what you are seeing, I mean, how it's going to be developed. I mean, who has to stand out and say, hey, stop it. We have to maintain the competition equally for the Europe market. So, I mean, I understand that nobody can change the reality at the moment, at least. But we have to do something for the, sustainability of this industry. Otherwise, I mean, a lot of good actors, good players, legal players, they are not gonna survive for long in the business. So what are you seeing? I mean, like how long and who should take some actions? I mean, just for free chat. I mean, I just want to understand a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two consequences. Good players, maybe three. Maybe we don't want to be too dramatic, but there is one scenario: good players, legal players becoming illegal players to play the same game. So to starting to play the game not clean anymore. There will be consolidation. It's already happening behind the scenes. It's just whenever you have the big guys struggling and everybody is kind of a little bit struggling, there are just always, I think it's natural in every industry that there are talks that, see at the doctors, with the doctors' places, 3 doctors with their own place just go together and have just one infrastructure and lower costs, right? So they just share the employees and so on. I think this will be seeing in this market as well, that we see bigger guys going together, sharing knowledge and infrastructure. I can only say, because right to repair, the initiatives of battery laws and so on, that we want to have changeable batteries and so on. I think instead of fighting for years against manufacturers' purpose, so Apple or any kind of manufacturer doesn't want to let people repair the phones easily at home, right? So it's not in their. And I even doubt that many people would like to do it. So I think what I would focus on is always look, where can I be very strong, and where is the space where not everybody is looking into. The example, what I just said, if you want to do buyback and you're starting now, or you think about how to improve, it's not on comparison platforms. It's not bid to give the highest price on the comparison platform. There is no freedom for you. It's not happening. The best story is always the Black Fridays. So the Black Friday, everybody is making millions of revenue, but nobody is earning money. Nobody's earning money. They just boost the revenue. So at the end of the day, what has to be changed can only be changed by politicians. From my perspective, they have to support initiatives. Digital product passport is something. So a more transparent way of seeing that the customer can decide when he buys online a product. He should see the history of a product. This is something what can massively help. Because imagine, to make this point again, if you specifically say, I want to run a brand, I want to run ads, I want to run complex internal infrastructure to take devices for my buyback scheme, to have real marginal VAT from Germany and sell it back to Germany, this device should have, in theory, the highest value for a German customer, right? So if you are a German civil and you say, okay, if I would have the choice to have a real, originally delivered German device in the market, and it's never opened, it's never repaired, it's just traded in, cleaned and sold back to me, maybe a fresh battery, and I can see it in digital product passport. This device can have up to 15, maybe 20, but let's say 15% higher value, instead of the product passport says originally delivered in USA, having an insurance case, a new display, traded via Dubai to Hong Kong, then to Europe, and then it's a spec from the moon. This device, if you have those two transparent in front of you, you would pay more for the German one, specifically. And if this is possible to achieve, then you can differentiate yourself. You can have higher cost infrastructure for grabbing those devices, but you can sell them higher price. And at the moment, you do all the effort to have this good device, but you are competing the guy that buying the stock from somewhere in the world without any background. So, and this has to change. And if we're coming there, we have better chance.
Got you very well, Dennis. So actually, when it comes to this topic, like compliance, there's no perfect solution at the moment.
Yeah, but now I realize I didn't give you a proper answer, maybe on the approach to, for example, how Orient Telecom can be successful in this market at the moment, because I will always emphasize people to just go the right way. So just find a way, with the right way, with compliance, to earn money. And for example, I give you one example of a scheme we run in Germany. It's a scheme which has only one grade for used. This is kind of unique at the moment. It's a test, it's an experiment, but you only have brand new, used, and defective. So because it's a different approach to tell somebody, no matter how it looks like, the price see on the website, you receive 100% with price guarantee if you send in the product. Because if you run your AI of your choice and say, analyze bad reviews in European market on all buyback partners. Everybody can do it meanwhile. Just if you listen to this, do it. So you will see number one reason of complaint is I received a different amount of money than what I saw on the platform. So this is the most biggest complaint. The people losing trust in these online trading websites when they receive not the money what they see. So, but end consumers are not industry experts. They sometimes don't even read all the explanations. Sometimes there are 4, 5, 6 different optical grades. They don't care. They just want to. Some care, and this is okay. They can go to scientifically measure the scratches on the screen and blah blah blah, and so absolutely. But as you said very well, the pie is big enough. There are customers out there just want to have an easy solution without headache, with trust, no surprises.
That's right.
No big shit. So, and if you focus on those that are not that price sensitive, and at the same time, you're having good infrastructure for getting good money for B and C grades, because if you have such a brand, you will have a lot of B and C grades, right? Because some people just say, oh, I have a pristine looking device, why should I go on that website, right? So some will come, but mostly you have B and C grades. But this is just one idea. But what I want to tell the people is that don't focus too much on what is not working. Just figure out what is somebody not trying at the moment. What can we do different instead of the guys complaining day by day?
And also, let's just talk about a little bit like easier. So as you mentioned, Hong Kong, nowadays more and more European companies are buying from Hong Kong, right? So what are you seeing the relation between Hong Kong and Europe?
It's good. I think it's. I think for European companies, it was a long time, and still is not 100% clear. It looked like a little bit like a jungle, because there were. If you one time, let's say, for example, on LinkedIn, announce that you are kind of open to have connections to Asia, you are getting spammed of opportunities on LinkedIn, right? So I think everybody knows, every European knows this. So, but it's so hard to differentiate who is then the right guy, who is the right source, right? So who is the right company to team up with? It's getting better the last years for sure. But I think the hurdle or the fear of importing from Hong Kong it's not existing anymore. I think the most companies are very used to taking the products and importing is getting less and less problematic. So I think it's in a very quite kind of normal way buying stuff from Hong Kong.
That's right. Actually, I'm also seeing that, as you mentioned, the foundation between both markets are getting more and more well developed, like the infrastructure, like the partnership, like the logistic. So actually, everything is getting to the better direction. So I believe that Europe and Hong Kong, both markets are being developed to the better direction. So it means that we will move. I mean, for me, I'm always speaking from the position of trader. So I believe that there will be more and more volumes are being exchanged between both markets. So hopefully, I would say that, Dennis, you have been sharing a lot via these podcast sections. I think I have to stop from here, because if I still going deeper with you, I will be running out of knowledge, because you know everything. So all in all, Dennis, thank you so much for taking this podcast section with me. And I appreciate your time. And also, I believe that we need you in our industry, because I believe that your knowledge will help a lot of people, the beginner and the company, to run their business more smooth and also in compliance. So I believe that all your work will greatly contribute to the development of this industry. For me at least. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure for me. And I press you all thumbs I have for this nice format with this podcast. I think it's a great idea. I wish you everything, only the best for your business. And I'm happy to meet you sooner or later again in person on one or the other event.
Same here, Dennis. And are you going to Malta?
I will not go to Malta. I will skip this year. I will be on e-waste in Frankfurt 1.5 weeks. This is this year. I think we know that very well. There are so many events these days, right? So every year there are more and more events, and sometimes I like the ITC event for sure. It's more like a vacation, like a holiday. But this time I wanted to set the focus a little bit different. Let's see next year.
No problem, Dennis. I believe that you have a lot of projects ongoing, and I am here to give you my best wishes for your all your projects. And also, I will be getting back to you with some feedback after reading your book. I will be receiving it probably next week. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Everybody, that's all about this podcast. Let's say big thank you to Dennis and have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.